The glint caught my eye, a chilling sparkle amidst the frosty landscape of our freezer. Not nestled in the velvet-lined box I'd bought, nor casually discarded on the bathroom vanity, but wedged frigidly between a forgotten bag of stir-fry vegetables and a carton of pistachio ice cream I'd specifically saved for a better day. A better day that, ironically, felt further away than ever. Initially, I rationalized it as a peculiar accident. Serafina Sterling, my wife, had always been prone to odd placements, but this felt deliberate. Then I spotted it, a note hastily affixed to the side of the ice cream tub. Taped to the lid of the ancient ice maker, a flimsy scrap of paper bore three stark words: business trip, don't call. No signature. No love you. Just a curt, unfamiliar scrawl that felt alien, even though I knew the handwriting. Read this before you trust a simple note. I stared at the crude script, frozen in place, the Arctic air from the freezer doing little to quell the heat of panic rising in my chest. It wasn't that Serafina had never been vague about her career obligations, but this time, the usual farewell kiss, the casual mention of her return date, even her signature looping S at the end of a message, all were absent. Just the ring, the note, and then a silence that deafened, echoing through the empty rooms of our apartment like a warning. Day one blurred into a restless haze. I paced. I called her mobile twice, leaving a carefully constructed voicemail. Hey, just checking in. Hope the work thing's going well. Love you. No reply. By day two, food tasted like ash. Her clothes still hung in the hall closet, her hairbrush still rested on the sink, yet her presence had utterly evaporated. I called again, 2 more times, straight to voicemail. By the third day, the veneer of composure crumbled. I sent one final desperate message. Serafina, if you're okay, just say something. Anything, please. And then, just after midnight, my phone vibrated. Not her name, but an unfamiliar number. And as the video clip began to play, a sickening knot tightened in my gut, forcing the device from my suddenly numb fingers. You think you know betrayal? Wait until you see this footage, because it wasn't a static image or a voice message. It was a fragment of a memory unfolding in a space bathed in the kind of sophisticated low light usually reserved for exclusive clubs. Muted jazz drifted through the background. A crystal flute of champagne rested on a polished table. And there, her head thrown back in a laugh I hadn't heard in years, was Serafina Sterling, nestled intimately on the lap of a man whose face was a blank slate to me, utterly devoid of the ring I'd just plucked from the ice. The phone lay on the polished hardwood, screen cracked like shattered glass, the silent betrayal continuing to loop. I crouched, trembling, as if diffusing an explosive. My hand hovered, afraid to touch it again, to let the truth sink any deeper. But curiosity, a cruel master, always triumphs. I pressed replay. There she was. Serafina, in a shimmering crimson gown I'd never seen, its back a daring plunge, revealing a woman I barely recognized. Her elegant legs were casually draped across the stranger's lap, his hand resting on her thigh with an unnerving familiarity, as if it had always belonged there. He leaned in, whispering something, and she laughed again. That breathy, delicate sound I remembered from the breathless beginning of our own love story. That was the hardest part. She wasn't drunk, wasn't hesitant, wasn't coerced. She looked utterly comfortable, practiced, as if this was her natural habitat. The camera shifted almost imperceptibly, revealing more of the opulent setting, deep leather armchairs, the glow of amber sconces, heavy velvet drapes. This wasn't a corporate function. This was a private lounge, a penthouse suite, perhaps. Intimate, exclusive, secret. I desperately wanted to believe it was old footage, a cruel prank, or something distorted by context. But the timestamp, stark in the corner, annihilated every shred of hope. 10:42 p.m., Friday night. Just 3 hours after she'd swept out our front door, brushing past me like an inconvenient piece of furniture. The tears didn't come. I simply sat there, phone clutched tight, staring at the frozen last frame, her lips near his ear, her hand curling possessively around his collar. A dull ache spread through my limbs. My stomach twisted into a knot. I wanted to scream, to rage, but all that escaped was a pathetic, soundless exhale. No message accompanied the video, no name, no context beyond the footage itself. Just a number. So I called it. One ring, two, then a click. A man's voice, calm and knowing, answered. "I figured you'd call, Leo Lansing," he said, as if we were old acquaintances, as if this entire charade was orchestrated. "Who are you?" I managed, my voice a raw, splintered thing. "I'm someone who believes you deserve the truth," he replied evenly, "and I have more to share, but it needs to be in person." "In person? Why not just, I think you'll want to see what else she left behind," he interrupted. Then the line went dead. And that's when the chilling realization struck. Serafina hadn't merely vanished. She had left a trail of breadcrumbs, and someone was meticulously leading me straight into the heart of the fire. Sleep was a forgotten luxury that night. I sat on the edge of our bed, a discarded prop in my own unraveling drama, trying to piece together the fractured shards of logic. Who was this man? How did he have such intimate footage of my wife? And more critically, why send it to me? Every creak of the floorboards, every distant siren, sent a jolt of false hope through me. Any moment she'd walk through the door, keys jingling, eyes veiled in deception. But she never did. Morning dawned, dragging brutal sunlight across a marriage that felt already entombed. At 8:03 a.m., the unknown number pinged again. An address. No name, no explanation, just a street in a district I didn't recognize. My gut screamed at me to ignore it, to block the number, to pretend this horrifying chapter had never begun. But I didn't, because deep down, the need for clarity, no matter how painful, dwarfed every other instinct. Some people drink their sorrows away, some run from them. I, Leo Lansing, apparently investigate my own misery, stupidly but relentlessly. What would you do if you were in my shoes? I navigated through a labyrinth of empty warehouses and crumbling office blocks until I found it. A corner cafe, its faded green awnings barely visible beneath a film of grime, its windows perpetually fogged. I parked, palms slick with sweat on the steering wheel, and entered, feeling like a warrior stepping onto a battlefield armed with nothing but a broken heart. He was already there, mid-40s, impeccably dressed in a dark overcoat, a sharp jawline framed by watchful eyes. He didn't rise when I approached, merely gestured to the seat opposite him, as if this were a pre-arranged business meeting between old associates. "You came," he stated, taking a slow sip of black coffee. "I want answers," I managed, my voice hoarse. "And you'll get them," he promised, sliding a thin manila folder across the scarred wooden table. "She isn't the woman you believed, Leo." "Not for a long time. Here's what no one tells you about betrayal. It's rarely just about the heart." Inside the folder, a horrifying gallery unfolded. Dozens of candid photographs, Serafina at chic restaurants, Serafina entering discreet hotels, Serafina laughing in luxury cars with the man I now recognized from the video. Always the same man, always his possessive hand resting smugly at the small of her back. "Who is he?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. He paused, then leaned forward. "Corvin Davies, her boss." The world tilted. The air was sucked from my lungs. Corvin, the name Serafina had uttered so casually, so frequently. Corvin suggested this. Corvin approved that. I had dismissed it as professional banter, a naive fool. The realization was a punch to the gut. It makes me sick, how blindly I trusted. "She's been with him for over a year," Gabriel continued, his voice devoid of judgment, simply stating facts. "This wasn't a momentary lapse. This is a meticulously constructed double life." I felt a primal urge to retch, to scream, to smash something, anything. But all I could do was stare at the grainy images, my mind fixated on one thought. "Why are you showing me this?" He reached into his coat pocket, a glint of gold catching the cafe's dim light, and placed something on the table with a soft clink. Her wedding ring, the same one I'd found in our freezer. But this one was warm from his skin, a sickening intimacy that felt more offensive than the cold steel. It felt as if she had already given it to someone else to hold. I couldn't bring myself to touch it. "You're Corvin's brother?" I asked, a mix of fear and a desperate, illogical gratitude swirling within me. He nodded. "Gabriel Denton, half-brother, technically, same father, very different moral compasses." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. This man knew everything. He wasn't merely a messenger. He was an active participant in this chaos. I wanted to despise him, but an even stronger need compelled me to listen. "Why are you helping me?" Gabriel took another sip of his coffee, as if this was just another Tuesday morning confession. "Because Corvin has done this before, Leo. Multiple times. He ruins lives. Women fall for the status, the power. Men like us are left to pick up the pieces, and I'm tired of watching it happen. The photos, the video, the ring. My mind still yearned for a loophole, an elaborate prank, but the evidence was undeniable. Serafina wasn't lost. She had chosen to disappear. Carefully, deliberately. Gabriel slid one more piece of paper across the table. An address. A different one. Not the cafe, not her law firm. A downtown apartment. An exclusive postcode. I looked up, bewildered. "What is this?" "Where she's been staying," he said. "He pays for it. Keeps it off the books. She's there now." I can almost guarantee it. My fingers began to tremble. My throat impossibly dry. All the excuses I'd manufactured for Serafina over the past year, the late nights, the urgent client meetings, the overnight retreats, they collapsed like a house of cards. I had clung to hope like a virtue, but now it felt like a pathetic cowardice. "I shouldn't go there," I murmured, more to myself than to him. "You should," Gabriel countered, his gaze firm. "Not for revenge, not for closure, for truth." Against every rational fiber of my being, I stood, taking the paper. My hands were still shaking as I shoved it into my coat pocket. I didn't want to know what I'd find, but I knew I couldn't pretend any longer. She was in that apartment, living a life I never agreed to, and something told me she wouldn't be alone. I drove toward the address, the car heater blasting, my palms still slick with sweat. Every red light felt like an ominous warning. Every song on the radio sounded like a eulogy. I circled the block twice before I could muster the courage to park. The building was a sleek, modernist monolith, all glass and steel, its tall black windows reflecting the gray sky like empty, soulless eyes. Serafina always claimed to hate modern architecture, or so she used to. Apparently, she didn't mind it when Corvin Davies was footing the bill. "Stop. Read this before moving on." I stood across the street for an eternity, watching, imagining her behind those impersonal panes, laughing, wrapped in silk sheets that weren't ours, perhaps sipping wine, perhaps still in that crimson dress. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back. I should have, but pain has a way of pulling you towards it, like an irresistible gravity. So I crossed the street and stepped inside. A meticulously uniformed doorman nodded at me with an unnerving familiarity, as if I belonged. He asked no questions when I stated the unit number, merely buzzed me up. The elevator ride was the longest 40 seconds of my life. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in my ears. My reflection in the mirrored walls looked ghostly, fragile, like a man witnessing his own betrayal in agonizing slow motion. When the doors parted, silence. The hallway was unnervingly quiet, as if even the walls were holding their breath, guarding secrets. I stood before her door, my hand hovering over the handle. I didn't knock. I didn't call out. I just twisted the knob. It was unlocked. The air inside hit me, a cloying mix of expensive perfume and sharp betrayal. Everything was spotless, minimalistic, costly. A single wine glass on a quartz counter, a man's bespoke blazer casually draped over a leather armchair. Her scarlet heels kicked off near the sofa, as if she owned the place. Part of me, a tiny masochistic part, hoped she wouldn't be there. But of course, fate wasn't that kind. I heard it then, the gentle rush of water, a soft humming. Serafina's voice, singing a melody I didn't recognize. I walked quietly, my footsteps swallowed by the plush carpet. The bathroom door was ajar, and there she was, in one of his oversized shirts, barefoot, brushing her teeth as if it were just another ordinary morning. I froze in the doorway, watching the woman I married live a life I knew nothing about. She looked up into the mirror, and when our eyes met, her toothbrush clattered from her hand, hitting the porcelain sink with a sharp click. Her face drained of all color. "Leo," she whispered. In that suspended moment, the only question that mattered, the one that had haunted me for days, formed on my lips. "Why?" She said nothing for what felt like an eternity, simply staring, as if I were a hallucination, an intruder in her perfectly constructed reality. Her mouth opened, then closed. Then a sudden, flustered movement as she grabbed for a towel, wrapping it around herself, as if modesty still held any meaning. I stepped into the bathroom before she could slam the door shut. "Don't," I said, my voice thin and raw. "Don't pretend this is some misunderstanding." She backed against the counter, her eyes darting everywhere but at me. "Leo, I was going to tell you." I laughed, a short, pathetic sound that came out more like a broken cough. "Were you going to tell me before or after Corvin replaced me entirely?" Her lips trembled. "It's not like that." "No?" I pointed to the blazer on the chair, then gestured around the immaculate apartment. "Whose jacket is that? Whose wine glass? Whose apartment, Serafina? Because it's not yours and it sure as hell isn't mine." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. The classic line, the coward's anthem. "It just happened. I didn't plan it." "You didn't plan it?" I snapped, the carefully constructed calm beginning to fray. "There are photos of you two dating back a year. He pays for this place. You've been coming here when you lied to me about work retreats. Don't insult me with 'it just happened.'" Tears welled in her eyes. For a fleeting second, I wanted to believe them. To believe this was a moment of weakness, not a calculated campaign of betrayal. But a chilling certainty solidified in my gut. I knew better. I always had. She wiped her face, turning away. "He understands me in a way you never did, Leo. With you, everything was routine, predictable. I felt like I was dying in that house. Why failure is the key to success, and why predictability can ruin you." I stumbled back as if she'd physically struck me. "You could have said something. You could have left like a damn adult instead of playing house while sneaking off to your penthouse." She offered no argument. "I gave you everything I had," I continued, my voice quiet, trembling. "It wasn't perfect, but it was honest." Her voice was so soft I almost missed it. "I didn't want honesty. I wanted more." There it was, the truth, raw and brutal. She hadn't left because I failed. She left because she wanted to, because she chose to, for her own selfish desires. And in that moment, the first moment of absolute clarity, I realized I wasn't just losing her. I had already lost her long ago. I stood staring at the woman I thought I knew, and the final crushing realization dawned. She wasn't crying because she regretted her choices. She was crying because she got caught. Every subtle shift in her body language screamed discomfort, not remorse. She clutched the towel tighter, turning her back to me, as if hiding from the wreckage she'd created would somehow make it disappear. I should have walked out then, left her there with her echoing silence and crumpled excuses. But something nagged at me. Something didn't quite fit. The apartment was too meticulously ordered, too lived in. Her reaction, not guilt, but a frantic panic. So I said it. "You're not scared of losing me, Serafina. You're scared of what I know." She froze. "What else are you hiding?" I pushed. "What's worse than a year-long affair with your boss?" Her silence was the answer. I walked past her, into the bedroom I had never seen, yet somehow knew too well. Drawers shut too perfectly. A laptop still warm on a minimalist desk. I opened it. No password. The screen glowed, illuminating a web of deception more intricate than I could have imagined. Not love letters to Corvin, but a chilling exchange with a solicitor I'd never heard of. Attached files clicked open, invoices for a luxury condo on the city's waterfront, receipts for exorbitant consultation fees, and, most damning, a series of wire transfer confirmations 5 distinct transactions, each draining 5-figure sums from our shared savings, funneled into an offshore account. The final email, subject line stark, complete transfer before Leo gets suspicious. Corvin will handle the remaining equity post-divorce. I called her name. She stepped into the doorway, her eyes wide, busted. You were planning to leave, I whispered, the words tasting like ash. But not just leave me. You were going to empty me out. She didn't deny it. I supported you through everything. I put you through law school. I sacrificed years while you found yourself. And you repay me with this? She crossed her arms, her defenses rising like steel walls. I earned that money too. I shook my head, my heart thundering against my ribs. You didn't just betray me. You tried to erase me. She opened her mouth to reply, but before she could speak, a sound echoed from the hallway, the front door opening, then closing. Heavy, confident footsteps. Corvin Davies was home, and this time, I wouldn't be the only one asking questions. The door creaked shut behind him, a chilling finality. Serafina tensed, her breath catching in her throat. We both turned as Corvin Davies strolled into the apartment, an air of ownership about him. And in a way, I supposed he did. His eyes landed on me, and for a fleeting second, confusion flickered across his face. Then came recognition, and like clockwork, that familiar, infuriating smugness. Ready to learn the shocking truth? I see you finally found the place, he said, casually slipping off his designer coat, treating me like an unwelcome guest who had overstayed his welcome. I know everything, I replied, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. The affair, the account transfers, the plan. His smile faltered, a minute crack in his polished facade, but it was enough. Serafina stepped forward, perhaps to explain, perhaps to attempt damage control, but I held up my hand. Don't. There's nothing you can say that will fix this. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I simply pulled the manila folder Gabriel had given me from my coat pocket and placed it gently on the sleek counter. That's for your legal team, I told her, my gaze unwavering. Everything's documented, every penny, every lie. Corvin started to speak, but I cut him off. You can keep the apartment, you can keep the red dress, and whatever twisted version of her you think you're getting, you can have it. I'm done. I walked to the door. Just before I left, I turned back and looked at Serafina one last time. She didn't look like a villain in that moment. She looked like someone who had mistaken emptiness for freedom, someone who had traded loyalty for luxury and lost the only person who had ever truly believed in her. I didn't slam the door behind me. I didn't burn her things. I didn't scream. I just walked out and didn't look back. My hands were trembling as I did this, but I kept moving forward. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've moved into a smaller place, reopened my bespoke repair business, and for the first time in years started sleeping through the night. Waves of pain still wash over me, phantom echoes of a life I thought was mine. But I don't drown in them anymore. I swim through them, one breath at a time, and every so often I smile. Because sometimes walking away isn't losing. Sometimes it's finally winning.